1:45. Let's start it up. Okay, so we'll see how this works. On the top instead of on the second layer. And remember that grate, let's go pull that grate out again. Even though it does say you're supposed to be using a grate like this, I actually did not find that to be very effective, and you're only getting a couple of tablespoons. So I've got it on the solid tray. I've got 2 cups in here. I'm just going to let it do its thing. Once it's really crumbly, which will take 9 to 10 hours, but once it is crumbly, then I can transfer it onto that grate and continue the process to make this. It's just moved from 10 hours to 9 hours, and I moved the temperature from 145 and I brought it down to 140, and I did that about 40 minutes into the drying time. But I noticed that today, doing that, bringing up to 145 for probably about 40 minutes and then bringing it down to 140 and putting it onto the full top tray all the way up to the top tray, it's drying much faster and it's much more effective. Okay, I've got 2 hours left, and I just did a little test, and I took some of this and I put it onto here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the machine off, and I'm actually going to transfer this onto this drying rack. And this rack, because it's got the perforated holes in it, it's going to be able to dry now from the top and from the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to start transferring and see how it's actually pulling apart really nice. So you can tell that it really is starting to dry. I'm thinking just transfer it onto the other plate, and then it'll dry much faster and you won't need as much time. Okay, I'll be right back with this on that tray. Okay, that came off really nice and easy. And the tray now has very little in it. That's okay, whatever is left in here is going to go back into the dehydrator, and that will become powder itself. But now, with this on here, I'm going to be able to get a better circulation on top and on the bottom. So let's get this back in. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to take the top tray off, and I'm going to take this for the catch pan. Then I'm going to put this on. So anything that's going to be dehydrated is going to go through this grate, and then it's going to be on the catch basin down there. Then we're going to take this and ever so carefully, and I'm going to put it back onto the top rack. Oh, just going to have to move that a little bit. And okay. So now that's in place. I'm going to put the lid back on, and the lid's now nicely secure. So now we've got all the chips, and anything that does dry better from the bottom and the top now is going to go into the catch tray below. And I'm on pause right now, and there's supposed to be 2 hours left, and I'm going to keep it on the same temperature. So I'm going to turn it back on. So I'm going to keep it at 140 in 2 hours. It's about half hour after that I've put the chips into the top, and I'm just going to pause it for a second so we can have it nice and quiet, and should be able to hear the crunch. So let's take a look. Listen. Oh yeah, You can actually hear it. It's nice and crunchy. And really work those larger pieces into smaller pieces. So it's going to dry much faster. Okay, the timer is now at 0 and the machine has stopped. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to unplug the machine and I'm going to transfer this into here. So let's get that off and just put that to the side. Okay, I'm going to start with this tray and I'm just going to put it onto the baking sheet. Oh, is that ever nice? It came off really nice and easy. Just give it a light tap. Okay, so this is actually really nice. Now you see how it's got a little bit, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it's got a little bit of shiny surface. And that means there's still a little bit of moisture in it. That's okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to put it onto the tray that I did last night. And then tomorrow I'm going to put it back into the dehydrator. But right now I'm going to just put it all in and then I'm going to put it into the fridge overnight. And then that'll possibly take out a bit of moisture, because I noticed I did the same thing last night where it still had a little bit of moisture in it. And when I put it in the fridge overnight, it actually dried out even more compared to, here you can see the shiny stuff now. So this is from now, and then this is what it was from last night putting in the fridge. So, and then I'm going to keep doing this, put in the fridge, and then tomorrow morning I will put everything back into the dehydrator. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, maybe half hour, and then I'm going to let it cool again in the fridge for the entire day. Then I'm going to put it into a blender. Hi, today is day 3. So first day I did this. This was the second day. So it's been sitting in the fridge overnight and it is pretty hard. However, I'm going to do one final drying because I do feel a bit of softness in a few areas. And it's probably okay that it's a bit soft, but I want to make this into a crumbly powder. And some of this, when I roll it, it still doesn't turn into a crumbly powder. So that's the objective today, turn it crumbly powder. So I'm going to plug in the machine again. I'm going to take this out. And today I'm going to use the perforated tray, really to get a good air dry on it. And I'm just going to sprinkle this into the tray. Well, I've let the machine run for another 2 hours. And I've now turned off the machine and unplugged it. But let's take a look at what I have got. Oh, that is very nice. It's super crumbly and it is ready to be turned into a sour cream powder. Let's take a look at the collector tray. Oh, that looks amazing. That actually looks like shredded Parmesan. Very nice. Oh, that is going to be fantastic. So what I'm going to do is, because it's still warm, I'm going to put the lid back on and I'm going to let it cool down before it's turned into powder. So once it's cooled down, I'm going to come back and we're going to turn this into powder. See you soon. You have to make sure that that blade is all the way down. Okay. And some of this. Half hour, and I found out this is the trick to doing this. It's 1 to 1. So if you're using 1 tablespoon of the powder, you put 1 tablespoon of liquid. Let it sit in the fridge for half hour just to let the water and the powder break down a bit, and then take an egg beater to it. So the creamy part of it, I've taken the egg beater, and then I realized it's not foamy enough like a sour cream, like a liquid sour cream. So I've just put more the powder in, but it's 1 to 1 ratio. And I'm going to let this sit in the fridge for a little bit longer. Then I'm going to come back and whip it, and we'll see if it turns back to the original liquid sour cream. Okay, after half hour, it actually looks really nice. It's creamy, foamy. So I'm going to just take a beater and start beating this, because the top part looks really nice, but as you can see, there's still powder on the bottom. Okay, so I'm just going to put it in the sink. Got my egg beater ready. Let's see what happens. Well, after about, I would say 2-3 minutes of whipping, it is now back to liquid sour cream. I'm just going to go over here. Maybe the sun is kind of distorting it. But yeah, it's definitely back to liquid sour cream. And so when I move it, it takes a while to move. And this was a ratio of 1 to 1. So 1 tablespoon of powder, 1 tablespoon of liquid. If you wanted it thicker, and obviously you just add more powder, but it really is back to sour cream. The last thing to do, taste it. Yep, it's sour cream all right. Again, remember when you are making any liquids, just put it on a drying rack, you are going to need a solid plate, plus weight on the bottom. And for the last few hours of drying, make sure you've got a screen mesh plate